Welcome to the show. Today we have the amazing studio owner from regional New South Wales, Anne Coates. She's going to be talking us through how she specialises in immersive, interactive outdoor concerts and shows. This is a really exciting topic, and I think it's going to be enlightening to all of our studio owner and producer listeners. Okay. So before we kick off into that, I also wanted to mention that this week is Open Doors Week for Talent Manager Bootcamp. Woo! I'm really excited. Talent Manager Bootcamp is the course that brings the studio owner to talent manager. You've got 12 weeks access to an 8-week course. You get me in live group calls. Everything's recorded. You can play it back anytime. You get 6 modules of pre-recorded lessons and all that jazz. Honestly, this is the opportunity for you to step into the professional arena and give your students the opportunity to shine, to be on the professional stage, to be on the professional screen. I'm raving on about this because Anne Coates is actually a studio owner that is a Talent Manager Bootcamp graduate. And she's now, after being a graduate, she's running her own in-house talent management service and booked her students on the popular Australian television series Last Week, Home and Away. She's done this within a month. You're going to hear a little bit about that during the show, towards the end of the show there. But anyway, guys, if you want to really do this, level up your studio, increase your revenue, increase your student retention and your industry credibility. If you want to really take your studio to the next level, but you're feeling a little bit scared, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, honestly, I'm here to support you. I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. So jump on into Talent Manager Bootcamp. Doors are only open for a few days, so let's do this. josephinelancuba.com/TMB. Okay, I'll pop that link in the show notes for you. But now let's kick into the show. Here we go. Business arts and all that jazz. Hey there, I'm Josephine Lancuba and you're listening to Business Arts and All That Jazz. I've been immersed in the creative business world and performing arts industry for over 20 years. I know from experience that being an artist, a creative, or running a creative business can be a tough gig, but I'm here to tell you it's possible. I went from having $0 to my name and living below the poverty line, to then living paycheck to paycheck, to finally living a life of comfort, happiness, passion, and even stability. In this podcast, I peel back the curtain and share with you the ups and downs of my journey. Plus, I tap into the minds of creative industry experts to discover their paths to success. I know you have a spark inside of you, that little voice that tells you to reach for the stars. I want to help you step into your limelight, to have the courage to live a life you dream of, a life that you design. So get ready to be entertained and inspired as we talk business, arts, and all that jazz. Welcome to the show. We have the amazing Anne Coates from Upstage Youth Theatre. So excited to have you here today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jo.
Now, look, I'm really excited to have you here because I'm currently in launch week for Talent Manager Bootcamp, and you are one of our beautiful graduates from the course who has now opened up your own in-house talent management service, which is amazing. We are going to dive into that later in the show, but before I do, I just want to, start with asking you a few questions about where it all kind of started, because I think it's always nice to sort of get to know my guests and understand really how it all came about. So tell us a little bit about your journey starting out in the arts and how that led to you starting your own business and studio.
Yeah, sure. Well, I started by going to theatre classes myself when I was young, probably about 8 years old, and sort of just progressed from there, really. I did an arts degree at uni, ended up doing a teaching degree and was teaching in a performing arts school, secondary, and had my first baby. And we lived next door to an old hall in Maitland, And we used to, we just started sort of teaching some classes. When I say we, my husband and I just started teaching some classes out of the hall next door. We started off with about maybe 5 kids coming, and it really evolved out of a need for me to keep working when I was on maternity leave. I really, really loved, and still do love, being a mum, but I missed that creative opportunity, and I think I realised that I needed to do something. I was colour coding the pegs on the clothesline. And I thought, there's something really wrong.
You got to do something when you're colour coding the pegs. Yeah.
I'd get really distressed if all the yellows weren't together or all the blues weren't together. So I just started teaching, and it was really lovely because we just did a letterbox drop. It wasn't, this is over 20 years ago now, there wasn't sort of big social media presence. And it was literally word of mouth. And I think even now, still, that's our biggest way of getting people to come to our classes and to our shows. It's word of mouth, which is a very country kind of thing. And it evolved. We started with about 5 kids and it grew.
Yeah. And speaking of that, country, I mean, you're from Maitland, New South Wales, which is regional. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about that too, because I think you didn't always live in Maitland, did you?
No. I grew up probably about 50 minutes from here. So I wasn't too far away, but I was a lot closer to Sydney and to Newcastle and sort of performing arts opportunities there. So when we moved here, it was quite clear that there was a need for, more opportunities for young people to perform in theatre, but not just theatre though, sort of just to be able to express themselves and have a really safe place to be able to explore creatively.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a very different time to when you first started. I mean, you mentioned letterbox drops. I remember the letterbox drops. Yeah. I remember, hitting the pavement with my flyers and putting them in the mailboxes, getting posters put up at local businesses and all that sort of thing. And it's a really interesting thing now because we've got social media, which is quite a beast. But I love that you said that word of mouth is a really big component of how you still gain students today, because it's obviously all down to reputation. When you went to Maitland and you said there was a need for it, then has the climate changed? Like, are we seeing more performing arts spaces and studios open up, or was that a thing of the past, or is it still that way, do you think, in regional towns?
No, I think it's definitely grown. There's definitely a lot stronger presence of performing arts in the regional towns now. I think, even with the growth of sort of the cultural growth of the area as well, we've got some really amazing movers and shakers in Maitland City Council, and they promoted the extension of the art gallery up here. So there was this, I suppose, kind of a bit of a cultural renaissance, actually. I know Singleton has got a really thriving arts and performing arts culture up there. Some of the drama schools and dance schools in Newcastle have sort of started spreading up here. And, I just think it's fantastic because kids have a choice now. They don't just have to come to us because we're nearby. They can travel down to Newcastle. Kids from Singleton can travel down to us. We've had students from Dungog, as far as Dungog, out as far as...
I'm in Sydney, so I don't know where Dungog is.
They're all quite far away, regional, kind of sort of an hour away from here. So, they'll travel. And I just think it's great because when I was a kid, there was very little choice. You had to travel, and there was really only one sort of performing arts place for kids in the area, and that was it. So,
has that reduced your student numbers, or has competition increased it? Like, what's your viewpoint on that?
I think it could have increased it. We have never actually got humongous, and it's kind of the way I like it. We don't have multiple classes running at multiple times. We have got sort of a time schedule of 1 class or 2 classes an afternoon per week, And that way I know all the students, I know all the parents. I can jump in and teach for my teachers if I need to. I like it that way because I don't feel like I'm spreading myself too thin. And it was important to me to have a balance as well, that I was able to explore my interest in creative things in other areas and not be too bogged down in the business side of things, or bogged down in sort of making it a financial business.
Necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the balance of being able to be there for my family as well. That was really important. Yeah.
So what exactly does your studio do? So you're not a dance studio, are you? What do you
do?
I
could not dance to save my life. As any of my students will tell you. No, we do have a musical theatre class, and I've got a gorgeous girl who teaches that for me. But as far as what we do in classes, a lot of it is it's acting skills. So we'll look at blocking different stage skills, delving into text, different practitioners we might look at, TV and film acting as opposed to theatre style acting. So it's most of our classes are, or all of our classes are taught by teachers, so they're actually qualified teachers, and they've also got a lot of industry experience as well. So that they're great with managing some of the different personalities that you can get in a drama class, but also making sure that everyone's getting what they need out of the class.
I think it's important for everyone listening as well to know that it really doesn't matter what studio you run. There's so many similarities between a drama school, a singing school, a theatrical school, a dance school. Like at the end of the day, we're just facilitating the craft, whichever craft
Absolutely.
it is,
That's right. Yeah.
And it's classes, it's programming, it's production.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're very production focused, aren't you?
Well, yes, we are. We don't do sort of multiple shows a year. The most we would do would be 2 shows a year, only because we've got a really small team. And again, we don't have a huge student body to draw on. And I would prefer to do a really quality, memorable show, once a year, than do sort of 3 or 4 a year. And the other thing that we have to consider too is we don't have a theatre, so we don't actually have our own performance space. So when we do our shows, we generally choose to do outdoor productions, which means that we have to fit in with whatever the site has got going on at the time. We have to fit in with weather events. We've had a lot of weather events. I've got about 8 weather apps on my phone tracking the weather. So it's quite, just doing any sort of production is a huge deal, and it takes a lot of your time and energy and spirit too. You can't just fill that up straight away and say, okay, what's next? It's a big deal. And so because we have so many logistics to think about when we do that, I don't like to exhaust everybody and make them think, oh God, we've got to do it all over again. So it's kind of special that when we do a show, it's a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the outdoor events, because we've actually spoken before, obviously a few times being part of my coaching program, but you did mention once that you specialized in outdoor events. And I thought that was so fantastic, because you said you did Charlotte's Web in a barn.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. It really changed the way I thought about things, because it was like, oh, I've got the Little Mermaid coming up. Maybe we could do it in an aquarium.
Yes.
Like how cool is that? But anyway, I want to dive into that a little bit, because I think since COVID, we've had to look at new ways of doing things, generally speaking. And the traditional way that studios run their productions is in a theatre. Yeah. I'm one of those people. We use theatres all the time, or we use auditoriums or club stages or that sort of thing. And I suppose because of where you're from, out of necessity, you've had to be creative in your performance space. So outside of COVID and not being just from necessity, if you had access to theatre, would you be using that, or would you still opt for outdoors? Like what what makes outdoors so special, or is it just really hard work?
It is hard work, but it is very special. I think one of the things I like to do is create a feeling for the audience. So most of our shows will start with audience arriving an hour before the show starts. They bring their picnic, dinner, or lunch. Little people can, if it is a kids show, little ones can explore the site. It makes it really accessible as well for young families, so they don't feel that they have to keep their child sitting in a seat paying attention the whole time. There's other things to look at. And with our adult shows, or children and adult shows, it's about that transition from it being a space where you're having a picnic and eating, and gradually it becomes a theatrical experience, and the lights start to come up, and suddenly this place is transformed into a magical place. We've had
that so much.
Yeah. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting. So the whole idea is that, someone said to me once that a show is only as good as the person who shows you to your seat. If you have an usher who's rude to you, or isn't interested in you, or doesn't care about your experience of the show, you're not going to enjoy the show, no matter how good the show is. So I've always loved that idea that, you can build an experience right from the moment the person, steps into the space. And we've had, pirate ships created off the back of hay drays. We did Peter Pan underneath the most incredible fig tree. I think Sport for Jove actually do some work like that. They'll often do a show at Belarus. Is it Belarus? No, what's the name of the Rouse Hill estate? Yeah. So they'll do a show out there outdoors, and then they'll move it to the Seymour Centre. So it's that idea of creating something magical that people will still remember.
And so the show starts from the moment people arrive.
Yes.
Because that's actually that. So you're saying you have some interactive point at the beginning, so people are able to interact with the set and the scene, and it's quite immersive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the traditional show starts.
Yes. Yeah.
And then you even mentioned that when you, like, for example, just throwing it back to Charlotte's Web and the Barn, you said there were live animals in the space. Is that?
Yeah, so they weren't actually in the barn. So out at Tokal Homestead, they have this incredible barn. It's one of the oldest barns in the Hunter Valley, Blackett Barn. But it's surrounded by a working farm. So there's actually pigs down in a pigsty. There's sheep roaming around. So when we've done a couple of shows there now, audience members were able to go and visit the pigs, before the show or after the show. They can have a photo opportunity with the pigs.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because that's actually creating a whole event experience.
Yes.
So it's not just about the performance. It's really about the event.
Yes.
And I think that is something, even if you're doing indoor events or theatres, it is something that listeners could potentially take on board, because it really does start from the moment someone walks in. It's like, you go to, I've been to a business conference, and the moment you walk in, there's music playing and someone's handing you a gift bag, right?
Yes.
So that it doesn't matter how you do it.
Yeah.
It's about that feeling.
Yes.
Grabbing a champagne on entry, or having the bar open, someone spruiking something, or a singer in the foyer, there are ways to do it. Even in a theatre, it could be, having a singer in the foyer and a biscuit table. Like, it's about the experience, right?
That's right. And I think it really is about making the audience feel special. And then what happens on the other end of that then is that what I love is seeing the students or the cast members and the team who the tech team working around them, understanding that it's actually not about them and their performance. It's about the experience of the people who've paid to come and see the performance. So it's not actor-centered, or ego-centered. It's actually, you're actually providing a service and a gift. And I think that's what makes it special. Yeah.
That's an interesting point of view, because often we very much focus as studio owners on the performer's experience.
Yeah.
So to have an outward approach and say, okay, yes, of course we want our students to have an amazing time, right? We want them to have that time, but to actually understand what it is to be an artist and what it is to be a performer in its true form. And that is the gift to the audience.
Yeah. And look, let's be real. The kids are going to have a great time performing.
Oh, absolutely.
They just want to be there. They want to be up on the stage. And there's that really beautiful moment, during production week, just before you open, when they realize, that it's all come together and they're about to open. And it's, you can almost see this kind of veil being lifted from them, where they know that it's going to happen. It's quite a magical thing. So that they're going to have a great time no matter what. But I think it's really important to create that ethos that they understand that they're actually giving something. It's not just about them receiving. Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey there, I wanted to take this quick mid-show 30-second break to tell you about a free event that I am hosting. It's called Create a Talent Agency in Your Studio and Book Students for TV, film, theatre and commercial work. It's a free webinar. Yes, there are a lot of words in there because I wanted the title to tell you exactly what's in there. And I'm hosting it this week. Now, if you head to the registration link, that's josephinelancuba.com/webinar3, you will be able to register. Now, if you can't attend live, please register anyway, because you will receive the recording, which you can replay anytime. Now, of course, I encourage live attendance where possible, but if for any reason you can't, still register. In this free webinar, you will learn how to find and book auditions for your students in film, television, commercial, and stage. You will learn the 3 key benefits of running an in-house talent management service. You'll also learn the 7 revenue streams available to you as a talent manager, and the difference between a talent manager and talent agent and the roles they play. Now, I think I've gone for 60 seconds because I'm super excited. So everyone, please register now. I'll pop the link in the show notes. I can't wait to see you at the webinar, or at least give you that beautiful free resource so you have the information at your fingertips to create the studio of your dreams. Back to the show.
Now, you've actually been moving after, Talent Manager Bootcamp. You actually started moving into talent management in your space. Now, that's something new for you. Tell me why, and for anyone listening at home, Talent Manager Bootcamp really helps studio owners become talent managers. So basically, so that they have the opportunities to submit, their students for film and TV, commercial, theatre, stage work, all that jazz. So what made you think, hey, I'm interested in this, I want to give this a go? Like what sort of drew you to talent management?
Well, you did, Jo.
Oh.
Your little face kept popping up in my feed.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it was nice. No, I have, over the years, I've just had so many students asking and saying, who's a good agent? Who can I go to? How do I get into film and television? And I felt uncomfortable pointing them in a direction that I didn't really know enough about. And I didn't want to be recommending someone that I didn't trust myself or know enough about. So after doing Talent Manager Bootcamp with you, I could see that, you were ethical, that you had a really strong sense of what's right for your students, and I felt comfortable that I could work with you in that capacity. Yeah.
And I think that's interesting about referrals, because we do often get asked, don't we? Like, hey, where's the best place to go for this? Like our students. Where's the best place to go for that? Even when they become adults and they're like, oh, I want to go into full-time. Tell me where I should go.
Yeah.
It's really hard to recommend something you haven't experienced yourself. Like I can only say, okay, I did a full-time course 20 years ago in this institution, but other than that, I couldn't tell you what the others were like. I only by hearsay, but not through experience.
Yeah.
So I totally get you. And actually, when it comes to agenting or talent management, it is a tricky one because we do tend to just recommend people to agencies we've heard of, opposed to ones that we actually know and trust.
Yes.
And it is something that, I mean, you could say, well, who cares as long as they get the opportunities, whatever. But there's a lot of unethical practice, especially in the youth agency space. So, I think that's a really interesting point of view that even I hadn't considered before about that whole recommendation piece. Now, tell me, when you were doing it, what was the rollout like? Like, when you initially said, hey, everyone, we're going to have an agency here, we're going to have an in-house talent management service. Were people excited? Were they apprehensive? Like, what was your personal experience like from your actual client base?
It created a buzz straight away. So, which is one of the other reasons I was interested, because I felt that we needed an injection of some kind of energy after COVID. And it definitely created that. Most people were just curious to find out a little bit more. I think some people wondered whether there was a catch, is there something, are we going to have to pay for something? Are we going to have to, but once I sent out all the information and spoke to a few parents that wanted a little bit more information on the phone, we've got quite a few. We've got quite a few who have signed up. They haven't all completed their profiles yet. But I can't believe, even just with the few that I have got, I've got maybe 10 that are signed up completely with their profiles. I've had probably a request for, self-tapes or auditions at least once a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 of your students went on to do home and away extras.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And this is all within a month, right? This is about a month.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
So, this is the thing. I think people think, and you actually said this to me, you said you thought it would be intimidating, but it wasn't once you got started. I think this is the perception of a lot of studio owners that, well, how can I do this? Is it for me? Is it really something that I'm worthy of, or that it's going to be intimidating, and that imposter syndrome really seeps in. And I think I've experienced it too. Like, I had imposter syndrome for sure when I started doing this years ago now. I felt it, and then it just clicks. Like, now I've had kids do a bunch of stuff. I mean, we're talking about films with Nicole Kidman to Sigourney Weaver to being in a chicken commercial. Like, there's such a variety. How do you feel now? So you said, not like when you first started, you were like, this is intimidating. How do you feel now that you're actually in the whole crux of doing the role?
Occasionally I still feel a little bit wobbly, but I take a lot of comfort from, your sort of the fact that you're there to support us, and that we have that, you're a touchstone that we can always go back to that, or we can go back to our notes or whatever we need to do. So that's always a really big help, knowing that you're there. But I think, it's not rocket science. I think you sort of said yourself that it's really about just wanting to, we all know what our kids can do. We know how to cast them, and we know how to nurture them. And that's really what it comes down to. And I feel when you told me that, I was on board, because I feel really comfortable with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not rocket science, is it?
No. And even the cast, the different agencies themselves, the casting agents, that they want, they want you to be the person who finds that child for you, or that actor for you. They want the search to be over. And it never ceases to amaze me when the briefs come through. They're quite apologetic. Oh, sorry, this is a really fast turnaround for this client, but do you have anyone like this? Could you please submit by? And I think, poor things, they just want to find the person.
Oh, I wouldn't wish being a casting director. No way. Casting director is really high pressure. They've got these clients that are like, get me this by this date. I want it exactly the way I want it. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's a big job. It's a big task. But that's really interesting, because it humanizes the process. See, I think even like now that with online and everything that we see through social media, there's still a pedestal that this entertainment industry is on, and everyone who works in it is somehow the golden, it's like the golden empress to this gate that doesn't exist, right? Yeah. And everybody's standing on this pedestal, but it's absolute rubbish. They're just people doing a job, like you said. Oh, so sorry, quick turnaround, yada yada. They're just human beings, and I think the sooner people realize that, the easier it will be for everyone, because that's when the opportunities will come, when you realize that everyone can do it. It's about having a desire. And obviously you've got to have a little bit of strategy in place, right?
Yes, that's right.
Without strategy, honestly, like I think studio owners dabble in presenting that sort of work to their students. Like, did you sort of dabble prior to sort of having that strategy and agency set up in place?
Yes, if I saw something come up in social media, about an opportunity for them, I would definitely flick it out to them or let them know if there was something coming up or auditions, because you want them to have opportunities. You want them to extend themselves and to learn more and to move beyond where they are now. The most exciting thing for me is when my students move away. It's sad, but a lot of them move away from Maitland to Sydney or Melbourne and, go off and do amazing things. But that's what you want.
Yeah. Well, now you're not a stepping stone. Now you are a go-to space. So if they've got more opportunities locally and realize that they can actually apply for these things, like you said, via self-tape, from Maitland. It means it's possible. And so that's really, really exciting. So what would you say to anyone who's thinking about taking on Talent Manager Bootcamp? What would you say to them?
I'd say it's definitely worth it. I think that you're a wealth of knowledge. There's I learned a lot, even just sort of business strategy wise, from Talent Manager Bootcamp. And it was kind of nice too, even just the networking, seeing those other talent places out there, the different studios and the studio owners, and hearing their questions and their concerns. It makes you feel, it can be quite lonely, particularly if you're in sort of a regional area. Sometimes I feel a little bit like I'm just kind of just here swimming my own race. So to hear other people sort of having similar difficulties or similar ideas, it's actually really, it makes you feel like you're less alone, and I think that's important as well. That sharing ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to mention for anyone listening that graduates, I actually have a membership called Talent Squad. So when Anne talks about all this support, like you are, it's actually that ongoing support after the course. Now, tell me, what's next for Anne? What's coming up in your world?
Well, we have got a show opening in the school holidays in the local art gallery here. And it's, drum roll please, it's Stevie Louise. And it's a book that's been adapted. Tanya Hennessy, who's a comedian and radio celebrity. I don't know, some people might know her from TikTok. She has written a sort of a tweens novel, and then she's adapted it for stage, and she asked us if we'd like to be the first company to put it on. So she's an ex-student of mine, and she's just a fabulous person and very excited about sort of regional kids getting an opportunity to do this. So it's very exciting, and we're just thrilled to be a part of it.
That's amazing. I love that. And I love that they were your student.
Yes.
See, the legacy lives on. Yes. This is what it's all about, right?
Yeah. Can't get rid of them.
Nurturing these artists and giving them the confidence to create their own art in the future. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, no, it's full circle.
It is full circle. So who or what inspires you?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that probably my children actually really inspire me. Whenever I have to think about you know, an issue or you know, a hard one of those tough decisions sometimes you have to make as a business owner, I think about what I would want my children to know that I did. And yeah, that keeps me with my feet firmly on the ground.
I love that. How many kids do you have, Anne?
3.
How old are they?
19, 17 and 12.
Oh, okay. So you're out of the trenches of the littlies at least.
Yes. The warfare keeps going.
It does? Okay. Well, that's not very hopeful.
No, it's very hopeful.
5-year-old, and honestly, I feel like my 7-year-old is going on to 13. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because we talk about legacy in the studio, but it's also about that obligation, which I don't think is a dirty word, by the way. So I talk about living my life in obligation, which is really, for me, my obligation is my family, my kids, you know, the people I serve, like yourself, my legacy, like leaving behind a trail of, you know, people that will have success and thrive, which includes my family. So I think that's really special. I think that's really special to be inspired by that obligation, which again is not a dirty word for me. That's like a beautiful thing, because if you don't feel obliged to anyone or anything, then what are we doing? You know?
Yeah, that's right. And that sort of obligation is a privilege, really.
It is. It absolutely is. And I often remind myself of that. And it's funny too, because you talked about, you know, earlier in the piece, we talked about giving back to the audience and all of that stuff. And one of my immutable laws is give to. I'm pointing up. You're all listening to this on audio, I'm sure. I hardly get any views on YouTube because I have no strategy about the YouTube. I just dump the interviews up there. It's all about the audio. But I'm pointing to my wall, everyone. And that's because I've got my immutable laws or my core values, and one of them is give to give. So I really value that for sure. All right. And that's why you're in the talent squad now, because we're so super aligned. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. So if anyone wants to find you or check out your business, where can they go?
They can find us on Instagram at Upstage Shows, or just look up upstageyouththeatre.com.au.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today.
That's all right. Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Now, remember, doors are open from today for Talent Manager Bootcamp, and I would love you to join me. If you're a studio owner who's ever imagined creating the studio of your dreams and really just providing amazing opportunities for your students and your business, then Talent Manager Bootcamp is the way. It is for everybody. So if you think it's not for you, imposter syndrome be gone, I say. Honestly, you can do this. This is why the course has been designed. I am here to break the glass ceiling on the entertainment industry and make it accessible to everyone who desires it. So jump on in, enroll now, or find out more. I mean, you can find out more through josephinelancuba.com/TMB. And you can enroll there too. Now's the time. If you've been thinking about this, you know, now is the time to do it. If not now, then when? That's what I say. So I hope to see you on the flip side, everyone. If you have any questions, please DM me on Instagram. You can find me at Josephine Lancuba. I'm there for it. I'm going to be on my DMs all week answering questions for everyone. And I'd love to see new studio owners, beautiful faces in the group. We've got such a beautiful community, and I welcome you to join me. So I'll pop the link in the show notes there, and I'll also pop my Instagram link there as well, so you can find me nice and easy, just in case you don't know how to spell my name. Say my name, say my name. There you go. I'm going to leave you with a bit of that. So enjoy your day, beautiful people. And yeah, let's do this. Bye, everyone.